Here are the UFC fighters who are guaranteed to have brain damage. Starting with Tony Ferguson, who collects brain damage instead of wins. He has always been willing to absorb shots, but when Michael Chandler caught him with a high kick, his brain cells had a funeral. Or take his battle against Justin Gaethje, where by the end he could barely walk. And Gaethje himself sometimes looked like a punching bag.
I don't want to live forever anyways. Like 65, 72, I'm out.
His willingness to take punishment in every single fight makes him a clear candidate for CTE. His most notable brain damage came against Holloway. Evangelista Santos endured more than just a brain damage. He suffered literal skull damage. MVP landed a flying knee that shattered his skull, causing him severe brain trauma. It's no surprise Santos never returned to the cage. By the way, Santos is the ex-husband of Chris Cyborg. To see a shattered skull, you need an X-ray. To see George Mann's hematoma, you just need an eye. Maybe just one eye. Mann's frequent participation has caused significant cumulative brain damage.
It was a great shot that he caught me with. In the moment of time, it was very hard to see.
Even worse thing happened to Joanna Jedrzejczyk, who looked like she just escaped Era 51.
You can see a punch gets landed directly right in the middle of that hematoma.
This massive hematoma was caused by Whale Chang during their title fight, and when they rematched, the result was no surprise. UFC fighters look sharp now, but I predict that in a few years, the upcoming fighters will end up like Muhammad Ali. Nam Pham is a prime example. Over the years, the decline in his speech ability has become apparent.
This is me, Nam Fan. Just coming out with my morning run.
10 miles this morning. Woke up late. I did run 5 miles.
He has accumulated over 8 losses in recent matches. In the UFC, he likely served as a highlight reel for others. Next youngster even asked for the beating.
Dustin Poirier, I'm gonna smash your face in.
Dan Hooker learned his lesson the hard way when he was demolished by Poirier. Overall, Hooker's willingness to engage in firefights has led him to absorbing brutal damage. His chin remains strong, but his recent performances suggest that the toll is catching up. His loss to Michael Chandler was particularly violent. Johnny Walker holds the record for the most knockouts in a single fight. Count with me, that's 1, 2, 3, and finally 4. Walker must have a special talent for getting knocked out. His most devastating loss came against Jamahal Hill, who sent him into another galaxy. I can't help but feel sorry for his brain. I also feel sorry for this unknown fighter who signed up for an MMA fight, only for the referee to act like it was boxing. Getting knocked out and then counted 10 in an MMA fight is bizarre. But the fact that the ref let the fight continue takes it to the next level. Honestly, I feel this referee should be in jail because he traded the fighter's brain health for nothing. Let's shine some light on the dark post-career lives. UFC fighters are often presented as muscular athletes in peak condition, yet they fade after they retire. Spencer Fisher fought during a time when it was like, if you don't see it, it doesn't exist, especially when it came to CTE. His career was filled with wars that took a toll on his brain.
They found lesions in my brain, which led to further studies, and I found that I have dementia.
Chuck Liddell relied on his gym in his prime, and he truly was unstoppable, but you can't stop the time. This reliance led to numerous devastating knockouts later in his career, resulting in obvious long-term brain damage. Plus, his lifestyle didn't help him much. It all culminated in a cold knockout against Rashad Evans. But Tim Hawk wasn't even fortunate enough to live to see his retirement. He was knocked out multiple times in both MMA and boxing, leading to accumulating a massive amount of brain damage. His toughness was his undoing, as he often took far too much damage in fights. His worst and final loss came in a boxing match, where he was knocked out and died from the injuries he sustained. Mateus Fernandes faced a similar fate. He entered the fight in the best shape he could muster, but despite his preparation and toughness, he suffered a heavy knockout loss. Tragically, he did not recover and died hours later following multiple heart attacks while hospitalized. Better to leave the heartbreaking moments behind. Now we come to the personification of CTE. Words can't fully capture it, so I will let the clips speak for themselves.
I expect no least than what I expect in my camp, what I've been doing in my camp.
I want to tell me what you see. Let's go ahead and see by the fight what you saw in the ring.
I take care of myself now. Now it's about my kids. I want to live. I want to outlive my children. Of course. He's reaching for those grapes. He's trying to make his wine, and the wine's already sounding like a violin with that cheese and wine.
Moving on to the most famous person on this list. Despite absorbing a record 2,086 significant strikes, Max Holloway has never been knocked down. However, his just beat mentality has led him into numerous wars where he endured an absurd amount of damage. I worry that this might catch up to him as his age progresses and his chin weakens. I just hope he will know when it's the right time to stop for the sake of his health. Jim Miller's willingness to stand and try has led to him absorbing more punishment than most fighters, especially as he aged. His worst loss came when Dan Hooker knocked him out cold in the first round with a vicious knee. To make matters worse, he suffers from a debilitating disease.
Tell me about this Lyme disease thing, man, because I'm terrified of Lyme disease.
Yeah, it's a bitch.
Lyme disease, caused by Borrelia bacteria, comes with symptoms like dizziness, fainting, shortness of breath, and chest pain. Now, try to imagine competing at the highest level while dealing with that. Let's turn our attention to the fighters who absorbed the hardest punches ever recorded, the heavyweights. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the MMA community didn't really start caring about CTE until Ngannou almost broke Overeem's cervical vertebra. To make matters worse, Alistair Overeem has been in the game since he was 18. His long career in both kickboxing and MMA has led to many knockout losses. Over time, Overeem's durability has declined, a clear sign of the brain damage he has absorbed. He went from the horse meat power
I like beef. Beef makes you strong.
to having a glass chin. Now he's focused on longevity.
Yeah, just early into the longevity right now. I intend to grow in my best possible version.
And I'm really curious to see the results. Andrei Arlovsky's long career is filled with knockout losses, contributing to an alarming amount of brain damage. His most devastating loss came as well against Francis Ngannou, who knocked him out with a single punch. I'm sure you are familiar with this story. Starting very young, fighting MMA and kickboxing, slowly accumulating damage. But this one is different. Gary Goodrich's most crushing defeat came purely for entertainment when he faced the Chinese giant Hong Man Choi. Over his career, he suffered 10 knockout losses in MMA and 15 consecutive losses in kickboxing, all of which likely contributing to his CTE.
It sneaks up on you. It's like a shark in the water that you can't see. You don't know it's there until it bites you.
Do you remember that Eiffel Tower of the UFC? Steven Struve, while known for his towering height, also holds the record for the most KO losses in UFC history. To make matters worse, his career and well-being were complicated by notable health struggles.
I was born with a heart defect, and that'll be here for the rest of my life.
Struve's most brutal defeat came at the hands of Mark Hunt, where he was knocked out in the first round. My favorite MMA fighter of all time is definitely Jay Ellis, the record holder for the most losses in MMA. His willingness to fight frequently under any circumstances has led to him accumulating 110 losses.
One thing we know about you, Jay, you always come to fight.
Always.
You always game in.
But don't underestimate him.
I'm getting better and better as time goes.
Despite participating in nearly 130 MMA fights, most of which he lost, there is something so positive about him that you can't help but admire him and wish him all the health in the world.